Well, this week is a how-to video. This video is part of a much longer video. If you've watched my channel, you know I do long form videos. So hopefully this little snippet out of this longer video will help you out. If you'd like to see the full video, the link is down in the description. So welcome back to Butler Customs Motorcycle Shop. And if I push it back in there, there is a gap there. So it has walked a little bit out, which I could tell when I took the primary off. Now to get the race off, if you don't have a tool, you could cut it, but you're going to cut into this shaft and you could miss and cut into the spline. It's a terrible idea, especially since tools are so cheap today. So there's a race puller tool. I have one in my Amazon store. It's the same one I'm using right here. And it comes with an installer as well. So on this race tool, I just make sure my threads are out flush so that this tool will set up. Now this race has walked out. Sometimes they'll walk in on you, and that can be a pain. But this one is out plenty far. So you stick that up in there good. It catches the back of that race, this little lip here. All right, and then you'll screw this in here. All right, and then as you tighten this, it will indeed pull that race all the way back off the shaft. Now if you're worried about these splines at all, just take you some electrical tape and cover it. However, pulling it off, once it gets off about halfway, it just comes on off, because this shaft part where the splines are is smaller than what the race sets on. And then I usually take a croissant wrench to hold this so this doesn't turn on me. All right, so what I want to do is actually tighten this tool. Yeah, it's 3/4. And I want to hold this here. And I got a long kind of breaker bar on it. Let's see. And I just want to tighten it. Now if you're working in the winter, or if that race has been on there a good minute, you might want to heat that up to pull that race off. Just heat that race up. Wow. Just broke my tool. Look at that. Oh my goodness. And I was just saying you might need to heat that race up. Well, that really stinks. And I've used this several times. That thing must really be on there, and it's been hot today too. It was in there right. My cheap tool broke, and then I realized really how cheap it was. So I did not want to go back with a cheap one. So I bit the bullet and bought a Gems one. Now I didn't buy the whole Gem set because I've already got this. And this is pretty basic, and this is beefy. So this should work as long as my bolt holes thread up, and they do. Very good. So this is a Gems J24 34902-84-3, and there's a number underneath it, 33738. No impact tools, of course. So this is going to be a good upgrade, and when I'm feeling both, I can tell this is a better quality and probably not cast like that. So I think this is going to do pretty well for us. It's going to fit up in there, and it seems like it fits in there more snug, maybe closer to the bearing. I'm not sure how to explain that. Of course, this one is broken, so I'm just going to thread this in till it's flush back here. I don't want it protruding out, although this race has walked out on this. And now I can slide this all the way forward. And I'm just going to take this up in here, hold it up good and tight, and run this in. Make sure it's centered. Going to get some pressure on that. Now, if this race is stuck from heating and cooling and walked out maybe crooked on us, then we're going to have to heat it up. Now, when you heat these races up, you got to be careful. There's a seal back here, and you can blow that seal out. Then you're pulling off this pulley and, you know, raising the rear wheel up, moving the rear wheel in to get slack on this pulley. You're pulling this whole pulley gear off and replacing that seal. So we don't want to do that. Here's the gems packaging that it came in. Since I think this is kind of might need some heat, what I want to do is lock this down in first so this shaft will not move on me. I think the maximum pull torque on this tool is 50 foot-pounds. So I want to make sure I don't exceed that, or we might have to heat this up. So I've got my torque wrench, and let me turn it on. I've got it set to 45 foot-pounds. I got my 3/4 inch. And so I do not want to, I'm actually going to be tightening it. So I do not want to go past the 45 foot-pound. If it starts beeping on me, then I know we're going to have to heat this up. And if we do, we got to be very, very careful. So let's see how it goes. Okay, that's 45, so I don't want to go any more with that. Let me break this free, and that's probably why that other tool broke. Yeah, it's pretty tight. That's probably why the other tool broke. So when heating the race up, if you bought a complete gems tool, it would come with some thermo stickers that you would stick on here, and when it turned a certain color, you knew this was hot enough, and then you could pull this off. So I don't have any of those stickers. So what I'm going to do is heat this up. I'm going to get this shaft back in neutral if we can. It's kind of hard to do. There we go. And I'm going to heat this up, and I'm going to turn this with my hand. I might actually even put the bolt back on, the nut back on. Might be easier to turn. It's reverse thread. And then I can turn this by hand and just keep that turning. So I want to put my torch on here to heat this up, but I also want to get my thermal gun and see what the temperature is. I want to get around 200 degrees. The inner primary oil gets about that hot, maybe even a little hotter, but I really don't want to go over 200. And that should be all the heat that I need. And then maybe I can get this off quick enough, get the tool on there, and we can pull it off a little bit easier. All right, so here's my gun. It's at 78 degrees right now on here. You certainly don't want to get it glowing red hot or anything like that. Let's see what we got there. 160, 156, 158. Okay, we're almost there. 201, very good. I'll give it a couple more turns. Turn this off, get everything set up as quickly as I possibly can. And maybe that's still enough heat to get this off. All right. Oh, baby. Okay. Make sure that's setting up in there good. Ooh, she's hot too. All right. All right. Lock that in. Okay, here we go. Let's see if that made a difference on us. Okay. it is moving on us. Okay, I think that moved on us. I'm gonna get me a long handled in here. Yeah. All right, she's moving on us now. Very good, thank you, Jims. She was on there good and tight. Oh yeah, she's coming off smooth now. You don't want to use an impact on this, and it will wear your arm out. But hey, she's coming off, getting easier and easier. Whew. Almost there. There we go. Very good. Oh, yes. That dude's gonna be hot. So please be careful. Whew. She was on there tight. And there's the number side that will go facing you. You can see how hot that race had got on this shaft. I don't want to use any sandpaper or anything on this race, but I want to take emery cloth or something, spray this off, clean it up really good, and then before we slide the new one on, I want to let this cool off. I don't want this hot being swelled out and trying to push a new race on. So I want to let this completely cool off because it's pretty hot to the touch. But everything, you know, come out good. The Jims was a good success. So, and I did oil up the threads on this. Forgot to mention that. All right, I got you in here best I can. I got this shaft cleaned up real good. Again, you don't want to abrade it to where you take metal off. Just want to clean it up, make sure it's nice and smooth all the way around. I've got my filler gauges set at 0.1, and the clearances is 0.1 to 0.125. And I don't know if you can see that or not, but it had moved out quite a bit, walked out on her. So the race had walked out to here. So that's a pretty big gap. So when we go to put the new race back on, we want to be able to slide this in snug, and then we know exactly where we want to be. We don't want to get it too tight because I'm at 0.1 right here, so I don't want to go in further than that. Shaft just kind of lubed up a little bit. Lube up around the ramp there. I do want to lube up a little on these threads here and on the inside. We can reverse thread this back on. Nope, I got to put my bearing on first. Okay, and then we can take our new bearing. Now this all balls new bearing, as far as I can see, does not have any writing on the outside of either side. They are both chamfered, not Sanford and Son. Don't know how you say that. So I'm going to get that lined up there. Then I want to take my installer and slide it on there. Well, actually that'll slide over this. So let me go ahead then and get this threaded on. And then something happened to my installer, and I don't know quite what happened, but somebody had cut it off. I don't know why I would cut an installer off, but it was cut off. So I've got a spacer that'll fit right over there just like that. And I want to make sure that my spacer does indeed, yeah, it goes over that really well. Okay. Put that on there. Got a couple of washers here. This one and then this one. And I want to oil up this right here. My threads. I think that'll give me enough room to grab hold. It's got a cutout here for a tool But I'm going to take my vice grips and grab hold to that adjustable wrench on here. Alright, I think that's going to give me enough room there to tighten. And then what we'll do is just start tightening this down. I might lock it back in the first just to kind of help me out a little bit. But this should walk that bearing right on. And it is. It goes on a whole lot easier than taking it off. I can assure you that. It's going on nice and smooth. The thing about going nice and slow is that you can watch that bearing, that race, as it gets up there where you want it. I'll take my gauges in here now. Still got a little bit of maybe one more turn to go. All right, and we are there. There we go. Then we can take this off. We got our gauges here. Perfect, perfect. Now, just to verify, you can usually take, well, not that busted one. Where's my new one? You can usually take your tool here, go under there, and kind of gauge there. That right there is perfect. Before, it had a whole lot of slop in it. Awesome. The race is installed. Now, if you open up your inner primary and you notice that your race has walked all the way in and you can't get the puller up under there, then what you can do is go to the other side of the bike, take the transmission cover off, the clutch cover, and undo this shaft bolt, the nut. Just back it off a little, take your mallet and tap on this shaft with the nut on it, and it should bring the shaft out enough for you to grab on that tool, pull this off, then tap this back, tighten and torque that nut back, and then you're good to go ahead and install. But that went on really good. It's really nice. It's set perfect, and we didn't damage any of the seals back here. That's wonderful. So just a little heat is all that she needed. With all that, I want to get her back into neutral. There we go. Now we're ready to go back on with our inner primary. We got our seal here, so let's clean this surface up, make sure it's nice and smooth, free of debris, and then get our gasket on there. It'll come with two little plastic dowels that clip in. Here's the old one, just like this and that, and it'll clip in. It'll only kind of clip in one way, so you can't get it backwards. It only goes one way. Then what you'll want to do once we clean this up is we'll oil this ring here, get it on there. Then we'll get ready to go ahead and oil up our starter ring here. There's an O-ring here. Now if you call Harley, they do not make this O-ring anymore. They can't even get it. Nobody has it. They don't make it. The manual says to inspect it. If it's still, let me get this right here. If it's still bulged out, so if you go across here and there's a bulge, you're good. Just go ahead and look all around it, feel all around it. This one feels fine. So what we're going to do is just oil this up, and the manual says as long as it's fine, you can use it. I don't know why they don't make this O-ring anymore. I've just always been taught if you break something off that's got no ring, put a new O-ring on it, but they don't make one. Now when we go to put the starter back in, you'll notice there's these dowels here that the bolts go through, so you'll want to make sure we line this starter up. It fits up in here flush. So I'm telling you that to say this. Go ahead and get your inner primary on. Then go ahead and install your starter to make sure everything lines up good. Do not wait until you put the primary cover on, because then you can't really see and judge if this is going on in the dowels and if your O-ring's nice and seated. Okay, your inner primary bolts, there are 5 of them. Some kits, I don't know why James doesn't, will come with new O-rings under here. Harley does not sell just new O-rings. They want to sell you the whole bolt, and you have to buy 5. From what I have understood, if they are good and they are soft and they are setting up in there nice and they have a bulge here just like this, you can reuse them. It might be wise, if you want to take you some good high temp RTV just on the finger and smooth around there, but then you're going to worry about kind of adhesing the head of this to your inner primary. So all I do is just kind of oil them up and the face, and then we're going to put the inner primary on with the gasket, and we're going to oil up the race, the shaft splines, this spline, and we've already oiled up here, so we're good there. And these bolts are not torqued to yield, so you can reuse these bolts. There's no issue with that. Okay, here's our new James case gasket. I'm just going to be kind of liberal with this oil here, running it around the ring part. I'll make sure it's nice and smooth. I've already oiled up my spline, my race, and this spline, the starter O-ring as well. And now we'll just get this lined up. There's 2 dowels. There's one here and there's one there. I cleaned up the surface of the case. I cleaned up the thread holes. And if you've got like a carb cleaner, I think they're also a welding tip brush cleaner. I always clean my threads, shoot some carb cleaner in there, run that brush in there, then air blow it out, and then run the brush again. Seems to do really, really well. So now that's set on there. We don't have to worry about it falling off. What we got to be careful of when we go to get our inner primary on is this shaft, this spline right here, boogering up the actual seal that's going to set over this right here, and then the bearing as well. We'll just get those splines covered up like that. There we go. And that just kind of takes off that extra roughness there. Now it's nice and smooth. We don't have to worry about our seal getting damaged. And now we're ready for our inner primary to go back on. Now, of course, you want to clean up the back side of the inner primary, where it's going to set here, where it's going to set in the dowels in here, around here as well. And of course, we got a new seal and stuff going in here. So I want to take me some oil and really get those bearing, that new bearing, roller bearing in there, oiled up. Get all the rollers oiled up nice and good. While you're doing it, oil that seal up around the lip of it that's going to set up around there. I'm going to wipe off the excess on the outside so we don't think that it's leaking on us when we get it up, setting up on there. And then make sure your dowels are in here. That's going to set up in here, and here, and here, and here. So you should have 4 dowels back here on the back of this. 2 for your starter and 2 for here. Okay, now I think we're ready to go ahead and go on over this and get our roller bearing up on the race, and it should set up in those dowels very, very nicely. Okay, and we want to make sure, give it a little bitty tap once I get that dowel lined up in the top and the bottom. Now I know that that's in there. I can't move it up and down this way. I looked up here and saw that my dowel is indeed set in there. The dowel down here is in. I'm not worried about the starter dowel right now. So let me go ahead and just get one in. These are 1/2-inch threads, or 1/2-inch heads. The manual actually says not to use, well, it doesn't say to use thread lock or not use thread lock. I don't know what's right and I don't know what's wrong. I mean, these are torqued down pretty good. So I don't know if you would even need the thread lock. I know some guys are all like, look, any bolt I put in, I'm thread locking. With the gaskets on here, I just don't know, but they did not say in the manual about thread locking these. All right, that should hold it up there. And I believe we are good to go ahead and start torquing that down. One thing I did forget to clean was in the lip of this, because it looked like they used some kind of maybe grease or something up in there. So I will clean that off before I jab the starter up in there. I don't want to damage that O-ring, so I can move the starter actually back a little bit and clean off up in here. Let me actually just go ahead and do that. That should be good. Now I want to tighten these down before I try to get my starter up on here, okay? Now the torque for the inner primary bolts are torqued from 25 to 27 foot-pounds. So we're going to go to 25, and there is a pattern to these, a torque sequence. So here, right here is number 1. Let me get them running there. Number 1, this is number 2. All right, let me go ahead and get number 1 torqued. Okay, and this is number 2. All right, and this is number 3. And then this is number 4 here. Now, of course, you want to visually inspect, make sure your gasket is in on this case, but it is, and it never came off the dowels, and we did things nice and slow. All right. And this one at the top here in the front is our last and final one. So the inner primary is on. Now I want to clean this out before I slide that up in there and get some of that grease out, which I could probably just kind of get it with my fingers. And then we can go ahead and get this starter up on the dowels, and you can look down up here in the top and make sure that you're getting in there good. I ran out of shop rags, had to borrow mama's towels. Shop rags getting expensive. Golly, they're getting expensive. Okay, so now I should be able to grab the back of the starter and just kind of wiggle it. I don't want to damage that O-ring. Just kind of wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And make sure up here it is setting flush, and it is. I look in here, I see the seals up against there. Nice and flush here where it should come out, and we are good there. So let's go to the other side, and I'll put those bolts in. We'll torque them down. They're 1/4 inch Allen head bolts. They're torqued to 22 to 24 foot-pounds. So I'll be right back with you. I'm just going to torque these down. Then I'm going to go ahead and hook up this while I'm over there, the cable that runs to the top of the starter. And there's actually a torque to that nut on top, and it is 70 to 90 inch-pounds for this cable here for the top of your starter. So 22 to 24 foot-pounds on the actual starter bolts, and then 70 to 90 inch-pounds on the wire on top. All right, with our starter bolts in and torqued down, and the starter wire back on and torqued down, be careful putting that starter wire on. You just don't want to torque it down. There is a 9/16 nut kind of at the bottom, kind of made into the bolts. You want to hold while you're torquing things down. It's only 70 to 90 inch-pounds, so just kind of give it a good little tug. Now we're ready to go back on with our basket and our compensator. So you got your slide here. The teeth on the slide, there's 3 of them. They will point out, but inspect them, okay? This has a little nick here, nothing big. If there's any cracks or anything like that, you're going to have to replace this. These do break, especially when you start doing upgrades and things like that. Now you're not going to be able to set it on here like this, and I'll show you what's best to do with the whole unit. You go ahead and get this snapped on here on the back, and then when it goes on, it goes fine. If you try to put the compensator on like this, you'll lose your mind trying to get this lined up. So let me show you an easier way. Now we're done with this tape. Go ahead and peel that off. And then before I bring the whole basket over and chain and primary tensioner and all that jazz, let's do one more thing. I kind of cleaned this up best I could. Don't worry about getting all of this off. You're just not going to. They don't even finish the inside and smooth it out for you because you never see it. It's functional. That's all it's supposed to do. But there is an oiler hole here. I want to just put some oil down in there. So I'll just take me an oiler can, just kind of get some oil up and around here. Get some oil on those splines again. Very good. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this, oh, it's back in neutral. Good. So I'm going to make sure all my bearings are in there are good. So we keep the chain in the direction that it was going. And I want to go ahead and put this on the back of my little nut because it is hard to do when on the bike because you got to hold your mouth just right. So it'll go on. Oh, good grief. Man, I had you on. Okay, so it'll go on just like this, and keep your finger on this right here so it doesn't slide back out on you. And now we are ready to go back on. So I'm going to look down through here, make sure I'm lined up good. Give it a little twist, make sure I feel those splines. Very good. Now I'll come over here and get my compensator side started. Then I can slide it all back in. And then that is a whole lot easier doing this than trying to set that spring up in there and trying to do that. All right. Now what I want to do, just so nothing kind of falls off on us, let's go ahead. I've not even got this bolt cleaned up yet, but I just want to stick it in there just so nothing falls out. And I want to do the same for the clutch hub nut, just so nothing falls out. We'll be taking them back out, red lock, tighten them and all that. The manual says do not use one of those silicone blocks, step-up blocks that you put up in there. They say it stretches this chain out. And with this automatic tensioner, you could break it as well. So you're supposed to put a bar in here, to a flat bar to kind of lock between the teeth. I don't like doing that, but that's how the manual says to do it. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to find me a bar, maybe cut one, that's going to set just like the manual says, up in this teeth, running over to here. And then as we tighten this, we'll have to flip this, and tighten this, we'll have to flip this, because this is reverse. Since we're not going to use a step up, we don't need any slop. We don't need any tension in this chain. So I'm going to go ahead and take this tensioner off, pop that off, and go ahead and pop that one off. Okay. Then I'm going to carefully hold this together as I bring this off. Now with this off, I can inspect the shoe. It's very important to do while you're in there. So as we can see, the shoe has some grooves in it, but not bad at all. Now if you let tension all the way out, this comes out like this. And then you can raise up this locking cam and you can slide this off. It's got a little pin here that this hooks on, and a little spring in here, and then these are little grooves, and this groove kind of correspond like teeth. So you can bring this all the way back and lock that in there, and then bring this back, and then there's your lowest setting for your tensioner, and you can put it back on. So it's easy to put back on, even take apart. Here's the little spring and rod that comes out. The spring's got a little clip on the end of it. Goodness gracious, if you ever had to get that off and put that on, Lord help you. That's all I'm saying. And then that rod kind of comes out the back as the spring goes in. I believe these are different tensioner settings, but they're not adjustable. They're riveted in, so you really can't adjust that. So what I like to do is, while I got it apart, just kind of clean it up, get all the goop and junk off of it, make sure the back where your little spacers are going to sit are there. There's the pin number for this part, automatic tensioner, 39929-06A. The shoe looks really, really good. Normal wear, nothing broken, no big grooves in it. Looks like it's been riding very, very well. So I'm just going to clean it up, and then we'll put it back together and put a zip tie on it to lock it in the lowest setting, and then we can put this back on. Okay, so we'll raise this all the way up. Okay, we'll put it in that way first. Then when we bring it down, we make sure it's in that groove. We're going to go all the way back here and hold it, and then bring our shoe down. Snap it in just like that. Now it's all the way down. So now all we got to do is just zip tie that together. There we go. Now that's down, locked in its lowest position. And then we can take the bolts. And these bolts will have these little spacers on them. And these spacers are made to fit. They got a shoulder on them that fits right down in there. They do not go this way. They go right in that groove and lock in. So you can go ahead and keep those on there. Make sure they're oriented right. Do the same for the other side. Make sure they're oriented right. And I am going to use some Loctite. It looks like this had red on it. So let's use a little red. There's a torque to this. So now we'll just raise the chain up. Make sure that gets started. Raise the chain up here. And you're gonna have to kind of feel back in there just to make sure that one gets started as well. And these are torqued to from 15 to 19 foot-pounds. So I'm gonna go 16 on that. They are seated. And I feel back in there and I feel those spacers. They are flush up against the tensioner. Now we can just go ahead and torque these down. Very good. Now I'm going to leave this on here now, and I run this out here so that I don't forget that this is in here. I want to tighten these down, torque these down, then we can go ahead and release the tensioner on it and it will come up. Now do not take this and push this on up, because you're going to notice that there's some slop in it when this comes up. These do not go to the proper tension until you actually start the bike and kind of test ride it. As the primary chain moves and flops, then the tensioner will go up notches to keep the proper tension. Some people don't like these, some people love them. But that's how you do it. So when you undo this, don't go pushing up on it to get the chain tight, because you might say, oh man, my chain's too loose. But it's like that until you actually start the bike and ride the bike. Went and found me an old crowbar. So it's got a little bow in it. Old crowbar, it's thick enough, tested and proven. 6 inches is what I cut it off to, and kind of shave the edges down a little bit so it's nice and smooth. Shouldn't damage any of the teeth. Of course, if you're worried about it, take some paper towels or some rubber or something from an inner tube and stick up in there. That might actually be what I do, but I think once this locks in, that's going to be good. And when I was cutting on this, as old as it was, I was smelling sardines, Spam, and firecrackers. Like, I was smelling all of the senses of the men that have had this crowbar before. So I kind of shed a tear. All those aromas hitting my nostrils. Oh, goodness. Okay. Anyway, let's start with the clutch hub. That's where you want to start. We're going to put a couple of drops of red in that, and then we're going to go actually like we're loosening it, and it's actually going to be, okay, let me get this back off and show you. Okay, so it doesn't go on this way. The shoulder goes in first. And then we'll go in reverse. We'll get that ran down. So since we are going to be torquing backwards, I want this bar to catch maybe something like that. So that when it goes backwards, it catches there. And the clutch hub nut is torqued from 70 to 80 foot-pounds. So it's not a lot. And the socket for it is a 1 3/16. So I'll get this on my big 1/2 inch and I'll set it in my lap and get it calibrated, balanced, 70 to 80. So let's go 75. And we're going to actually go in reverse like we're taking this thing off. Okay, let me get an extension on it to move me out a little bit. Alright, that was 77.3. Now that that one is done, should be able to just rotate this. And on this, we're going to be tightening this way. So let's go maybe something like that. Looks good to me. Putting metal on metal, I don't know about that. Alright, this is going to take some red as well. And I'm trying to be kind of liberal with it. Now before you put the nut on there, of course we've cleaned the threads, but you're going to put a small film of oil on this big spacer here and on the head of the bolt under the spacer. So now we'll screw this on. Now used to these had huge torques, now they don't. They just don't. So we're going to run this in. Now there's a procedure to this. We just don't torque it down and then leave. So we've got a procedure to it. What we're going to do is we're going to torque it to 100 foot-pounds. Then we're going to go one full turn out, off. Then we're going to re-torque it to 140 foot-pounds. And this is a 13/16. So let's go up to 100 foot-pounds. Now you want to go slow. This is going to draw that in. Okay, there's 100 foot-pounds right there. Now I want to take a chalk pen and I want to mark right there, and maybe up here on this shoulder. So I want to go one full turn off. So that means we're going to have to move this kind of out of the way and readjust it. Maybe there. There we go. All right, so my angle's right here, and I want to go one full turn off that. So I want to go one full turn off that. There. Now I want to go to 140, and that'll be our final torque and final procedure. And we can go ahead and take our bar out now and move it around. There we go. And she is torqued. And these AC Delco torque wrenches, they're really good. They're on my Amazon store. If you want, now we'll cut this zip tie and we'll get this out. And you can kind of see how it goes up. And you can say, man, there's a lot of slop in it, but as it tightens, it will pop back up and keep tension on this. So don't mess with it. I know it's tempting. I'm about to do it right there myself. Don't do that. All right. So now we can put our clutch back together. And with that, remember, we did not mess with this at all. So really, all we got to do is stick that joker in there and put our clip back on. That is really it. And then we'll let the slack out of our clutch cable, and then the clutch is set. Because we never messed with that. We just took the clip out and pulled this off once we got tension off. Now before I slide that in, I like to put a little oil on the tip of this, maybe around that shaft too, just so nothing's going in there dry. All right, and now our clip, please inspect your clip, make sure it's good, make sure it's flat, Make sure there's no breaks or cracks in it. This one's good. We'll snap that back in. Let me get my snap tool. I'll tell you, one day when I start updating that shop, I'm gonna get one of those big, nice carts. It's got the shelf on it and got the shelves above, and just I can put everything in one thing. I ain't got to crawl down on my knees underneath the cart to get my set of C-clip pliers out. So you want to squeeze these all the way in, and then make sure that it gets in there just like that. Now there's a little divot here and down here so that this can slide in, and I never like to keep my clips over those divots. Probably doesn't matter, but I'll run it around like that. Now you want to make sure it's pressed in all the way, and of course it is. There's no tension on the clutch, and that is done. We got our bar out of here. I might paint this like gold or neon green. I was working on a customer's bike once, and he said, man, somebody just did work on it. It ain't right, something's wrong. I went and opened up the outer primary, and they had left one of those silicone step-up blocks in here. It shattered all the shoe. It tore up a lot of stuff, and I'm like, man, that could have locked, it could have got wedged up in there enough and locked up on you, and you've been in the ditch. That was really, really bad. Fortunately, that didn't happen. So, saying that to say this, you could easily leave something in there and not realize it getting in a hurry. Please don't be in a hurry working on things like this. So I might paint this a really wild color, maybe pink or something like that, just so when you're looking at the bike, you're like, oh, I've never seen that before. Yeah, that don't go there. Well, thank you so much for hanging out in the shop with me this week. I hope I've helped you out. Clack it down in the comments and talk to me. I like just hanging out in the shop with you. Is there a crime in that? I don't know. There might be. I don't know. The laws might vary in your state. But do me a favor and tell your mama and them I said hi.